Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, my friend. Let them know what they're in for.
Oh, a busy weekend. We'll get into Game 2 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap the French Open, Stanley Cup, Game 2, another nail-biter. We'll talk about that, some rules out of the college football, and some NFL news, even some breaking news this morning. Plus, we'll have snacks at 8:30. Our close-to-be NBA referees.
Pending if he wakes up this time.
Well, he is on the East Coast, so they'll actually be 11:30. So he said, yeah, I'll be awake. And then we'll recap, SmackDown was here in Bakersfield Friday. We were all there, so we'll recap some of that, plus the Money in the Bank PLE that was Saturday night going into Monday Night Raw tonight. Plus, we'll have KG tomorrow to recap Raw. But text in any of your predictions, your recaps of any sports over the weekend at 661-842-2000.
There was so much going on this weekend. Not just Money in the Bank. Obviously, you had Worlds Collide, the AAA and WWE crossover event. If you watched that, it was a lot of fun. Just true luchador fashion. And then, the NBA Finals, obviously, were in full swing yesterday in Game 2 in Oklahoma City, where Thunder did exactly what we thought they would. Came out and just manhandled the Pacers as they've done with everybody who has beaten them in the playoffs. And the next game, they just come back and answer every single question that everybody had for them, including Chet Holmgren actually producing on offense for you. Surprise, surprise. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say we were wrong, though. 15 points and 6 rebounds for a guy who's 7'2" and playing against a center who's about 5 inches shorter than you.
I was nervous, man. They came to play. I mean, the first half they were in a lead at halftime in the Game 1. But they got into cruise control in about mid-third quarter in Game 1 and let the Pacers back in. So I couldn't change the channel. I was texting with a couple of friends that were like, this game is ugly. I'm like, well, it was ugly in Game 1 too.
It's weird, though, because as ugly as it was to watch, statistically, you couldn't have been more even. I mean, you really look at it down the line. They had the same number of three-pointers, same number of field goals shot. Like you really look at it, and they gave up the exact same amount of turnovers. The only difference was the amount of points that came off of them. I mean, again, I just think the Thunder did a very good job at, one, getting more fouls because they shot 10 more free throws and made 10 more free throws than the Pacers did. And 2, we just did a very good job at disrupting the offense of the Pacers and not allowing them to get on those long runs that they're used to, and that allow them to come back in these games and just set a tone that other teams just can't match. And at this point, I think the Thunder have found a really good formula going forward in this series to really dismantle this team, because although Tyrese Halliburton at the end of the game had the most points for the Pacers, I think about 12 of those 17 had to have come in the fourth quarter during that late run that brought them back to within, how much did they lose by? 15, 16, something of that nature.
Yeah, 123, 107.
So it was an ugly game up and down the board for the Pacers, and yet they still had 7 guys in double figures. 7. The only difference is the Thunder had 2 guys over 20 points, one with 30, and 2 of them were off the bench. So it's really difficult for a team to match that when all 3 of your top guys are having semi-decent games. I won't say that's the best game we've ever seen out of Jalen Williams, because I think he's much better than what he showed. He still had a solid game. And Chet Holmgren, I've already said it, the sloth at least produced for you. I'll give you that. But I wouldn't necessarily be too worried if I'm the Pacers. Going back home with the swing of things, I think that you're still sitting in pretty good, at least contention to make it a 2-2 series going back to Oklahoma.
Yeah, if they give up, obviously OKC is going to want to steal one, at
Yes.
least one in Indiana. Indiana, geez, Louise. But no, my question is, where was Halliburton the first 3 quarters? I mean, he had 5 points going into the fourth quarter, and I know that he's not the point leader type guy that, he's
Yeah.
not going to score a ton of points, but he's usually the clutch guy. And that was one of the questions that was brought up, is maybe he just doesn't have that takeover mentality type that a lot of players, but I mean, you need somebody out of your superstars when you're down by, even when it was 15. And that first 3 quarters, it looked like Pascal was the only one going into the paint. They were just throwing up threes left and right. And I get it when they're wide open and they're running the rotation, but when you had it in close to single digits, and it was because they were driving, but OKC does well when you get into the paint. That's when you get 4 or 5 guys on you. And that's one I have to give to OKC, because their defense is really stepped up. I know SGA's got 72 points in the first 2 games, which is, I believe, the
most in any
most
NBA history.
in NBA Finals history.
1 point more than Allen Iverson.
Yes, and they went to him after in the post game, and he was tweeting back and forth. But I want to go to Mark Spears talking about Halliburton's mindset.
He's had bad first half in both these games, and all of a sudden the light comes on in the fourth quarter. It was too late tonight. He needs to have a solid performance from beginning to end. He needs to be special from beginning to end, and that, I think that is while I am not worried about SGA in that standpoint, I am worried about that with him. I think he just needs to be certainly more assertive. But, in a lot of ways, that's not his game. He is one of those people that plays within the flow, likes getting other people involved, and that's great. But when they have games like tonight, I think it's imperative for him to set the tone early.
I think that's a good point, but I think it's easy to say when you lose the way you lost.
I think the team surrounded him. Once he starts making some shots, then the teammates start to, get more comfortable. And that's when we've gotten more out of the other players.
I agree with that. And that's why I'm saying that maybe I don't think he needs a takeover mentality. I think there are certain stars and superstars that have that their team needs them to have that. I don't think the Pacers do. You got here because your team is so cohesive and their chemistry is so strong and everybody can score. Don't shy away from that. Not to mention, to ask Tyrese Halliburton to change his entire game. Granted, he's had moments where he has taken over the game with his shooting, but that's not his game. He's a pass-first point guard. He likes to get everybody involved, and that's the way that you should really lean on it. I think it's more you're being blanketed by arguably the best defender in the NBA. Everybody completely forgets that Lou Dort is the man defending him. Lou Dort is arguably the best up and down the court defender that this entire league has. So you're asking him to beat that guy, which is, again, if you're a superstar, that's a fair ask, to be honest with you, because you need to be used to that. You're going to have the best defender on you 24/7. Just like Pascal has to deal with Jalen Williams the entire series. But at this point, I think you as the Pacers need to find a way to scheme him open. My biggest frustration with the Pacers in this game is that you continuously saw them go back to the same play, which was Tyrese or Naismith driving into the lane, figuring out, oh, Lord, I can't get a layup. So jump up mid layup and then throw it out to somebody at 3 where they're clearly covered by somebody, because you're not playing the Knicks and they're not all crashing on you. They're actually playing defense on their guys. And you can't get that pass off. There were multiple instances of those, I believe, 15 to 17 turnovers for the Pacers, that it was one of the guards messing that up and saying, oh, Lord, there's a guy out there. And it just didn't go your way. And it disrupted the offense. They did a great job of doing that in the regular season as well. And that's why I'm saying is I think the Thunder have just figured out a good formula to slow down what the Pacers do well, which is that. But I think now you need to find Rick Carlisle specifically needs to figure out a way to out-coach the opposition, much like he did against Tom Thibodeau. And you need to figure out a way to punish that team for doing what they do well. And that's going to be really, really difficult to do with a deep Thunder team.
Well, we talked about this on Friday. We expected OKC to come back pissed
Right.
and win by double digits. I remember, man, we were talking about this because Friday, I believe the line was 10.5.
Yep, I was just about to bring that up. That's
And I
why
was
the
like-
line got bigger. We Vegas saw this coming too. Let's not get crazy.
And I would expect it to go back to normal, but for game 3 and 4 in Indy, I think this is where the finals are really going to be made. We got 1-1. Okay, they bounced back, they evened it out. Now it's best of 5, and the 2 in Indy. If OKC drops these 2 in Indy, then it's a whole different story. Pacers probably take it. But if OKC can come back and play the game like they did, I mean, really the last 6 quarters, I mean, not counting the second half of game 1, I think OKC's got it in the bag, but they've got to play their OKC defense, and it opens up. I mean, the offense, the Pacers looked lost when OKC gets into transition, and we could say the same thing with OKC after the second half of game 1,
which is odd to
so
say.
I love it.
Too.
It's a great series. This is what we wanted to see in an NBA Finals,
Right?
But it's really going to come down to these 2 games in Indy.
Honestly, and it's odd to say that they look lost in transition, knowing how the Pacers got here. Because again, I've said it up and down this entire playoff series. The Pacers are that team that you play in AAU ball that just love to cherry pick.
Exactly.
And although that really frustrates people because God, is that a cheap way sometimes, it works and it gets you easy points. So you can't really complain about it at the end of the day. It's part of the game. I don't know. I think, again, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I'm figuring out who on that opposition in the starting 5 or whoever that is potentially guarding Tyrese Halliburton or Pascal Siakam that they can eat up.
Yeah, so when OKC went with the 2 bigs to wrap up the first half, that's when, okay, they've got to get it into single digits, under 5, and they've got a chance. And of course, like all of us, I'm sure we're ready to turn that channel with 10 minutes. Even when the fourth quarter started, I know a lot of people were like, this is crap, I'm not watching it. I'm like, well, it's the Pacers, just like I thought with the Knicks. Like, it wasn't ready to switch the channel quite yet until I turned it off for about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But going back to Jalen knows, and everyone knows, that the Pacers are going to come hungry on game 3. And this is what he had to say to prepare to game 3 in Indy.
The biggest thing is understanding your opponent and where their heads are at and try and put yourself in their shoes. The good thing is now it's 0-0 for us for sure. So we just got to kind of understand what kind of energy they're come out with, and, them being at home, them in the finals, what kind of punch they're going to throw, and be ready for that.
I'm wondering what the line looks like.
It's going to be if it isn't out right now, it'll probably be out early tomorrow. I can look here in a sec when we go to break, but
I would think OKC with 2 or 3 points,
3,
exactly,
like we said last week. Yeah, and it's going to be a lot closer because obviously you're going back to a very lively Indiana crowd. I do expect Indiana to at least come out with some sort of pop. You have to address the way that you lost in game 2 in order to not only rally your team but rally the fans behind you. And right now, I think it's pivotal for players like Pascal and for players like Tyrese Halliburton to get it going and figure it out. Like I said, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I'm figuring out a way to get them into some sort of matchup offensively that they can eat the man alive and just get the proper shots that you need. Because obviously leaving Tyrese Halliburton to deal with Lou Dort and Pascal to deal with Jalen has not benefited them at all. So I would maybe try to get them to flip-flop. Maybe it's easier if Tyrese tries to go at Jalen with his speed and Pascal goes at Lou with his size. I don't know how you really do it, but there's got to be some way coaching-wise that you can make this work for you.
Well, that's the number one thing they're going to be looking
Exactly.
at is Dort in the matchup.
Because that is where you have the definite lead, at least, or in terms of this series, is that you have the better coaching. So I would lean on him and try to figure out matchup wise how you can get points on the board.
Well, we'll talk more about the NBA Finals when we have snacks on at 8:30. We'll get into the French Open right after this break on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Sparky. A little metal for your morning. The only radio show I think that plays metal. This talk show. And actually, I got to make a comment real quick. I love hearing our promos. If you don't listen to us on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield, you can all around the country. You can find us at ESPNBakersfield.com or Bakersfield, ESPN.com.
ESPN Bakersfield.
ESPN Bakersfield. Just want to make sure I didn't say that wrong. But there's a promo I came on right before us talking about how anybody could be upset about more football. I have to agree. There is no better time in this country than football season. College football, NFL football matters not. Shoot, even XFL football, I am all for it. Which, if you haven't been watching that, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I haven't.
It's actually a lot of fun.
Is it?
I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot of fun. And I get to go and watch a former Atlanta Falcon now because Desmond Ridder has just signed with the Brahma Bulls.
Nice. Where can you watch that at?
I believe it's on Fox Sports 1 still. I usually am. I won't lie to you. I go online. I won't tell you how or whatever I use, but it is what it is. I like a lot of the
sinner.
I mean, a lot of us sin. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. Not everybody can pay for all of that.
No, I was talking about the
movie,
the French Open.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Actually, yeah. If you did you get to watch a little bit of the French Open? I watched the finals. I like to watch at least the last couple rounds to see how it goes. But let's start on the men's side since you already brought up Yanik Sinner because we witnessed one of the best comebacks I've seen in tennis in quite some time out of Carlos Alcaraz this weekend. The number 2 seed take out the number 1 seed, and Yanik Sinner in 5 sets had to go to a playoff too. But to come back from down in match point, it was incredible. For those of you who did not get to see this, Carlos Alcaraz down, I believe, 2 sets to 1 at the time in the 4th set, 5 games to 3. Match point for Yanik Sinner, and he just turns on another level. Carlos just figures it out and tears back, winning the next 2 sets. One, obviously, the final set, winning 7-6, having to go to a playoff, winning 10-2. It was one of the coolest things that I have seen in quite some time. But I have to ask you this, Sparky, because, I mean, we're both cash tennis fans, but at least we know the big names. Obviously, your Federers, your Nadals, your Djokovic's. Do you kind of see this Carlos Alcaraz, Yanik Sinner rivalry becoming the new Federer-Nadal thing?
Of course. Yeah, especially after this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's won his 2nd straight French Open title and 5th Grand Slam overall, but I was pulling for Sinner. And
were you really?
He was up after the 4-6 and the 6-7.
Steroid user. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Again, we'll get into that right now. Yanik didn't use steroids. I'm joking. There was an instance where he got busted, I say in quotes, popped for PEDs that were, I guess, used in a rehab situation. It wasn't even steroids. It was more of like a spray that was supposed to help him with joint pain or something of that nature.
I need something right now. I pulled something in my calf and I was hobbling.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I walked into this building and I thought not only Sparky, but the guy around his corner, JR, was. I thought the two of you got into a car wreck this weekend. I said, "What just happened?"
I mean, geez, Louise.
You were both on a diet.
I was good, man. Friday, Saturday, I was on fire. I was killing chores. I got all sorts of crap done on Friday.
To say, man, like I thought diets are supposed to give you more energy, not
pull
your leg.
I'm down 9 pounds in 1 week, so I was all happy. I got the pool set up. I got into it yesterday. Me and the wife got all sorts of chores done over the weekend, and people keep giving me crap because I never watched the John Wick movies. I watched the first 3 or 2.5. We went to bed. I looked at the clock last night. It was 10 something. I'm like, oh, babe, I got to go to bed. But we're going to finish the second half of John Wick 3.
Attaboy.
And
funny you bring that up too. I saw Ballerina this weekend. We'll get into that at a different time.
That is the plan. We're trying to get that before they pull it.
But yeah, no, I'm sorry. Back to the French Open. Because
this is the first man to save match points and win a Grand Slam final since Djokovic and Federer at Wimbledon in 2019.
That's incredible. Again, just the entire comeback as a whole, him being down 2 sets, winning the 3rd, and having to claw back in the 4th, It was just great tennis. And honestly, the match, I think, went 5 hours, five
and a half hours,
which is, I believe, the second longest final ever for a Grand Slam. And the entire thing was just incredible to watch. Obviously, most of us didn't watch the whole thing, but it is really brewing in a new rivalry that I think needs to be what carries men's tennis. Because I do believe that is the best part about tennis. Is granted, these guys are all individuals, but it's the rivalries and these big dominating names that really make it fun to watch. And with guys like Federer and Nadal obviously leaving, and now Djokovic's career obviously, being towards the end of it, I'd say, I think it's really cool to see that we're at least in good hands with these two.
Well, this is Alcaraz after the win.
Match that I've played so far, without a doubt. I mean, today I think the match had everything. Really good moments, really bad moments. Just really happy and proud about how I deal with everything today. I mean, it wasn't easy. The first match that I came back from 2 sets to love down. I think it wasn't a better occasion to do it in the final of a Grand Slam.
And honestly, it's not just the men's side that killed it. The women's side was also entertaining because we saw an American win. Coco Gauff did it. She did it. She took down the number 1 seed, Sabalenka, in dominating fashion, in my opinion, obviously winning in 3 sets. And you know what's funny? So coming into this, there was a lot of talking between the two. It was a great match, but there were certain words that were said by a certain number 1 seed that pretty much made the world think, oh, she doesn't believe Coco belongs here. She doesn't think Coco belongs in the finals. Well, guess what? Coco shut that down and actually played well in the wind to beat this. And honestly, there were words said after the match as well, where you could kind of skew it to say that Sabalenka said she got lucky on a couple of these. Matters not.
No.
Matters not. You're sitting there talking smack. Your karma's going to come around and bite you in the butt. And you know what? I love to see Coco win her first. And honestly, I think it was Sabalenka's first chance at the French Open as well. Not that Sabalenka has any shied away from Grand Slam championships. I think she's been at 6 in the last 2 years.
Well, at 21 years old, Coco becomes the first American to win the French Open since
Serena, I'm assuming?
Serena.
Yeah.
Yep. In 2015.
I was like, it's the only I was like, is there anybody in between then? Because I don't think there's any American tennis player that has been
first
anywhere
American
close.
in a decade.
Again, it's great to see too. And her win is a testament to everybody who has ever struggled with mental health. It is fantastic to see her bounce back from this. And I hope to see other great tennis athletes like your Naomi Osaka's come back from their situations as well. Because much like the men's side, the best part about tennis are the stories and the rivalries that you get to see during these careers. And I genuinely believe between Coco Gauff, Sabalenka, your Naomi Osaka's, and then some, you're going to get a lot of just great tennis here in the next decade to come. And it's just going to be great for sport and for sports in general. So it was a great thing to see. Like I said, Coco Gauff being the first American is an awesome turnaround for us as well, because it has been quite some time since we've actually gotten to cheer an American on to win any of these Grand Slams. It really has, but it's always fun to see an American walk away with a big old trophy. That's just my thoughts.
And before we get away, Ridgeview High School, the Wolfpack defeat Banning High 1-0 to win the SoCal Regional Division 4 Championship. Classic pitchers duel. It was 1-0. But Joel Gutierrez was the star of the show, throwing a complete game shutout. The scoreless battle through 6 innings before the dramatic 7th inning breakthrough, where Charlie Bravo's high fly ball to center field became the game changer when it slipped through the outfielder's glove. Isaiah Marquez capitalized on the error, racing around third base to score the championship winning run. So congratulations to the Ridgeview Wolfpack.
They don't ask how, they ask how many, boys.
Exactly.
Well done.
Keep it rolling, Wolfpack. But we'll take this break. We'll get into some Stanley Cup. What's your predictions? Text them in 661-842-2000 on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
And always streaming on the Early Bird Special YouTube channel.
All right, I haven't heard this song in a while. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. I'm Sparky. Before we move out of an amazing weekend of sports, we'll get into Money in the Bank and all of that stuff probably at the end of the show because there's plenty to talk about there as well. But we have our wrestling segment tomorrow with our guy KG. We got to talk snacks at the end of the show as well. Talk a little NBA finals and see where he thinks this is going. Plus, I want to get his thoughts on a lot of the calls in terms of the NBA refs and letting a lot of these plays go because there has been some tough play in at least the beginning of these playoffs, but it seems like they've kind of gone back to the regular season calls, which is kind of bugging me a little bit. But there was Stanley Cup play as well over the weekend on Friday, where this series continues to go, whereas it just never went last year. And this time we got double OT, led into a beautiful game-winning goal by Brad Marchand, his second goal of the day. Man, this series is just going to be nuts. I mean, do we expect game 3 to go into triple overtime at this point? Because
as it's lined up to do.
It's been amazing hockey, but now we're going back to Florida. And I think that is going to be a big problem for the Oilers. But what's your thoughts, my friend?
I mean, Edmonton has lost just one road game over their past 2 playoff series. So I'm hoping to keep this, solid series as competitive as it can. But despite painful memories from Florida last year, the Oilers expect to feel a little bit more comfortable in enemy territory. But game 2, I was dropping off a friend after SmackDown. We stopped by Iguanas on the way home. A big shout out to Iguanas. The staff over there is awesome. But I came in and they were doing post game from the Dodgers. I said, "Hey, let me get that remote." And he said, "What? There's no sports on." I put double overtime on, so I got to catch the final, I would say 6 or 7 minutes of overtime. It was insane. But I would think, this is a different Edmonton team. They seem to have fire, I would say. But, they did what? They won the first 3 last year and then lost the last 4.
The Panthers did.
Yeah.
The Panthers won the first 3, and then the Oilers won the next 3, and then they lost the game 7.
So
this is my reasoning for saying that this is a bad thing for the Oilers. Granted, yes, they've only lost one away game the last 2 series. Neither of those teams, though,
are Florida.
Florida's team up and down is just incredible roster-wise. And to be honest with you, we're talking about a Florida team that went 31-15-2 in the regular season. It's going to be really, really difficult for them to pull off a win here. I don't know if they're going to be able to, which means you're going back to the Edmonton Oilers are going back to Edmonton, most likely down 3-1. And although we saw it last year, you can win 3 games in a row. It's just
you want to put that on your team.
Exactly. Do you really want to put that down again? And Connor McDavid last year had to have an just viral meltdown in game 7 for them to really gain some heart. It's like, is it going to really take you that again for your team to get the game or get the heart to win these games at least? 4-5 that's pretty scary if you're looking at it defensively. You need to crack down and figure out a way to slow down Marchand and Seth for sure. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do it when they're at home. I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting game 3 tonight. I'm actually trying to look for the line right now. I'm not sure if it's favoring the Panthers. So it's still relatively close, but what do you think, my friend?
I'm hoping. I wouldn't know much, but I'm thinking it evens up the series 2-2 when they go back to Edmonton. I'm hoping. I would hate for Edmonton to go down 3-1, but if anything is talking about just this series, not last year's finals, I'm expecting a even series. So I'm hoping. And I would say, it would start tonight with game 3. If Edmonton can pull it out, then, they'll feel a lot more comfortable going back home 2-2 than going down 3-1. But let's go with Wisniewski on game 2.
This game was special tonight, real special. One of the craziest first periods in Stanley Cup playoffs history. I think the 3rd quickest 5 goals ever scored in a Stanley Cup final game. And then the battle throughout, physical, nasty, back and forth, offense, defense, incredible goaltending in overtime. And then Brad Marchand, just one of the most controversial players in this league with the way he runs his mouth and the way that he can agitate. But at the end of the day, the guy is clutch. I mean, 2 huge goals in this game, including the game winner in double overtime. They picked him up at the trade deadline to be a difference maker, and he has certainly been that in the series so far.
Honestly, it's going to come down to Brad Marchand and how well he plays. I think that he could lead this Panthers team to another championship, to be honest. But I enjoy watching the Rat Pack play just because of the relentless play. And he's right. I mean, it was 5 really quick goals in the beginning of this game again. And it is going to take some stellar defense, I think, to really change up the pace of this series. I have seen quite a few offensive games in the last couple matchups between these two teams. And it really comes down to the goaltending. I think Skinner is, like I said last week, could be the bounce back king if he really just puts it down and starts to play like he usually does. You got a 90% save rate on most of these games. It really just, it's shocking to me how quickly both of these teams are able to exploit these goalies. But I'm expecting, honestly, tonight, I'm expecting the Panthers to come out and win this game. I don't know if you're going to get it close either.
Oh, man.
I just, it's, there's something in the pit of my stomach that believes that Kachuk, Marchand, and Seth are going to come out and absolutely just manhandle the Oilers tonight.
Well, speaking of Stanley Cup, we got 2 messages sent in, which you can send in and join the conversation at 661-842-2000. This first one says Oilers win tonight in regulation, which I hope you're right. And the second one says Florida's not winning 2 straight games at home. Once again, I hope you're right.
I mean, we all hope
not a
you're right.
pushover.
Everybody on this show is hoping for the Oilers. I'm just saying, from what I saw in game 2, from what I was able to see in game 2, because obviously we were at SmackDown for the vast majority of the game, but I was able to sneak it on my phone on the way home and at least catch the overtime periods, because Sparky texted me during the second one saying, "Oh my God, they're in double OT." I was like, "Yeah, I know. I've been watching for the last hour." But dude, this series has just been so entertaining, back and forth, and they're right. I mean, Marchand's goal to make it 4-3 in the second period really set the tone. But Perry, being one of the clutchest scorers, obviously tying it up in the third. I don't know where this series is going to go. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but there's something in the pit of my stomach that believes the Rat Pack is going to come out and just have that relentless nature that they're known for, put their foot down on the Oilers' neck and just say, "You're in our house now, so you're going back home with a disadvantage." And if I'm an Oilers fan, I'm worried because you had your opportunity to really do the same thing to them, because you had the lead in the beginning of this game. They had to come back and score for twice in the second to take it back from you. You could have been that team. But again, it's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to if Edmonton can figure it out like they did against the Dallas Stars and just hold the Panthers to no goals. They've done it in game 1, because don't forget, the Panthers started out hot in game 1, and then throughout periods 2 and 3 and overtime were left scoreless. So it's possible, but you cannot allow this flurry of goals like you did in game 2. And you definitely can't allow a guy like Brad Marchand to lead this team and rally them, because that is what's going to get you killed. He is a rally maker, and he's a team maker. He's won it with the Bruins, and he's looking to do it with Florida. So I'd be really, really worried if I'm not, or if I'm an Oilers fan. I'm just saying.
What
That's just
time is
me.
that game? 5?
5 o'clock. Yeah.
We'll recap that. Plus, we'll take a break. I know you got some news out of the NCAA and some college football.
Yep.
And a listener asked about ballerina, so maybe we get into some John Wick talk to wrap up the hour. And then we'll get into some NFL news before we have snacks at 8:30. Right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. It's always one. I'm digging it, but I'm not sure I've ever heard it.
Eminem's first album.
Oh my god, it is. Wow, it's been so long since I've heard this. That's why I didn't recognize it, 'cause God, it's damn near older than me. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, that's Sparky, and we do have some news out of the world of NCAA, well, really in the legal world in general, 'cause I also have a baseball story that I could tie into the legal world too, but we'll get into Wander Franco again later. The NCAA, though, has reached a settlement, or at least a judge has agreed to approve a settlement between the House and the NCAA, which will now allow colleges to directly pay athletes. Now, basically, I say back in the day,
Back
but
in my
now,
day.
before this was approved, um, players and athletes could only be paid by outside groups. They could not be paid by the school itself. Ergo, what our guy, Mr. Hathaway, was in here the other day talking about how we were raising money for NIL funds for athletes here in Bakersfield for CSUB and BC.
1913.
1913, exactly. So groups like that would essentially pay for these kids' NIL deals. Now, with this settlement, it sets up a 10-year revenue sharing service that will essentially put $20.5 million of money into the pockets of athletes starting by July 1st of this year, and will be distributed throughout in various ways, throughout these colleges by the college itself. So Alabama can now pay whomever their quarterback is, $5 million in NIL money to come play for Alabama. That's setting a tone essentially for what we're going to get here going forward. This also sets up a pretty cool clause, though, that $8.2 billion with a B will be distributed to athletes from all the way back to 2016 up until now that were not allowed to sign NIL deals or were not given their essential money that they should have been given back in those days. Will be getting that money here going forward, probably in some sort of payment quality. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be paid out over a 10-year span to these people. And most of it will be going to obviously power conferences or power conference football and men's basketball, because that is where most of the money comes from. But I mean, it's a good step forward if you're a college athlete and you're looking to get the money that you were owed for a lot of this stuff in the last couple of years, especially because the NCAA has been making billions upon billions of dollars off the back of these students without paying them a dang dime. So, my personal opinion, it's a good thing. I get this whole NIL money thing has been really sticky, and a lot of people don't really care for it because it creates a weird precedent inside of college sports. I totally understand that. I think it's going to get cleaned up here in the next couple of years. I think it's actually a good thing, though, because you start these college athletes at a younger age of being professional. Let's be honest, because if you start doing these things in a professional way, you make them some contracts or something like that. Because eventually we're going to get rid of this entire, you can transfer to 4 different schools in 4 years. I feel like that's a little excessive.
That's what my question was going to be, is how does that affect? Because I know that's been the argument, is having these players transfer every offseason is not only hurting other teams that are losing these players, but it's hurting really the sport. I mean, when you have a guy that's jumping over and, a team or their sponsors or their, people that are putting money into the alumni, and then he has a good season, he bounces to a bigger school. And I mean, that's the type of things that they've got to figure out.
Yeah.
And which I know the NIL is newer, so we're in the for
early
the few years
stages.
they're going to be continuing to make tweaks
Right.
to make this work best. But I mean, you kind of mentioned what you think about it,
and really quick, I got to type myself up. I misread my notes. It's $2.8 billion, not 8.2. There's a vast difference, but still, it's still a good amount of money going to these athletes from 2016 on. So now, obviously, your Johnny Manziels aren't going to get paid for anything because that was way before them. But some of these athletes are owed their money. And to be honest with you, this is one of the biggest businesses in America, is college sports. So it's only fair that you give back to the people who make the business what it is. That's just my thought process.
And I got to throw out some love to Denny Hamlin, who won his third NASCAR Cup Series race of 2025 and 57th of his career with the win at Michigan International Speedway over the weekend, which he'd passed William Byron just 3 laps away from the checkered flag, and won by over a second ahead of Chris Buesker and Ty Gibbs. So I'm waiting for the actual NASCAR series.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain the point system and stuff to me, because I can't even call myself a casual. I'm not a casual. I watch in passing, much like you with golf. So you're gonna have to explain that one to me, my friend.
Well, it goes by wins and
yeah,
standings where they finish, and if they don't finish, you don't get points. But I mean, it's a whole point structural. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just what you would think, with top 10, you get a certain amount of points.
Maybe we'll get Kevin back in here. He can break it down for us.
Exactly. And some sad news for the Chicago Sky, who lost Courtney Vandershot.
Heart, dude.
Out for the season after tearing her ACL Saturday.
And I think there's a lot of Chicago fans who think we're hoping that this would not be the case, because she, in my opinion, is probably your point guard of the future. But now, I mean, I don't know how the bounce back rate is for injuries like this in the WNBA, but in the NBA, they're hard enough as it is. So I feel like this is going to be an uphill battle for her coming back, but we'll see what we will see. I think the Chicago Sky at this point are just worried about Angel Reese making a layup. So I'm sorry. I'm just telling the truth. There are people making joke videos out of her missing her layups. So
there was I saw over the weekend, there was a prop bet on if she would miss her first layup,
because she's had a streak of missing her first shots. She can't make a layup, man.
Another text says, while we have a couple minutes before the end of the hour, he said, Ballerina is a very good movie. What did you think? Burdick, the violence in it was great, not better than the 4 Wick movies. This is a side movie, but my favorite was John Wick 1, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the John Wick movies are much better, but I'm a much bigger Keanu Reeves fan than I am an Ana de Armas fan. But it's a great film.
I never watched any of them, so over the weekend I got through the first 2 and halfway through the third, and so far the third one has been my favorite.
Oh yeah, no, and they get, trust me, you'll enjoy 4 as well. But the John Wick movies are fantastic. If you're a fan of the John Wick movies, I highly recommend you go check out Ballerina. It's a great film. They did an awesome job with it, and just like the John Wick films, there's really cool sights that they throw in there as well. Incredible scenes and fight scenes and brutality, if you're into that. But our guy Rick Bentley from KGET 17 comes on the Ralph Bailey show on our sister station of Kern Radio on Fridays, and he was bringing it up. We were talking before, and he's like, "Oh, I got to see Ballerina." And I was like, "Oh, fantastic! I'm going with my mom this weekend. That's her birthday present." So, like, what did you think? And he's like, "Well, there's a lot of flamethrowers." So me, when the entertainment guy tells me that she loves flamethrowers and there's going to be a lot of flamethrowers, I'm expecting a lot of flamethrowers.
Yeah.
No, there was one flamethrower, Rick. There was one flamethrower, and technically there were 2 flamethrowers, but I was like, at least I got the flamethrower, I guess. I was like, she uses grenades more than she uses anything. And I thought it was actually a really good movie. Just, if you enjoy the John Wick films, you know how incredibly just action-packed they are and brutal they can get with a lot of the fight scenes and stuff, because they have to one-up each other. It's essentially what's the race movies? Fast and the Furious films, but as a spy. And it sets it up essentially to be John Wick. She's the new John Wick. Like, the end of the film sets it up perfectly for the next one. And she has this entire storyline that justifies her actions and stuff. However, I have to highlight this real quick. I was super excited to see the actor that plays her father, and I need to look this man's name up because he's in the Umbrella Academy, the series on Netflix. If you've checked it out, he plays Diego. Oh Lord, what's his name? David something. David Castaneda plays her father in the very beginning of this film. Does an amazing job, and I love seeing him act, because now all I'm thinking throughout this entire film, if you watch the Umbrella Academy, is, oh yeah, she's got the aim of her father. Just because she's tossing knives at people's heads, broken plates and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God.
Because watching John Wick 3 last night, I mean, not only are the graphics cool because they can use that, but the library fight where he
Where he
fought
beats
the
up
big
Boban
basketball
and
guy.
Yep.
And not only that, but the knife throwing afterwards, and then going on to where he jumped on the horse and went down the freeway fighting guys.
Now we're bringing this up, though. The training that Keanu had to go through for these movies was incredible. I wonder if Anna went through the same thing. I have to dive into that and find out. But if she did, she did a fantastic job. It was awesome to watch.
But we've got plenty of news coming out of the NFL since the weekend. Some releases, some more veteran or retired players getting locked up over the weekend. We got 2 as of right now.
Oh, Lord.
So we'll get into that and much more
right here on the Early Bird Special, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, Hour 2. Join us here in the next 30 minutes. Our guy Snacks, future NBA referee, will be with us. We'll talk a little NBA Finals after Game 2 yesterday and the absolute manhandling of the Indiana Pacers by the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll get his thoughts on what he thinks is going to happen with the rest of the series. Can SGA keep up his style of play and just dominate everybody on the court? Because God, has he just been masterful on the offensive side. But there's been plenty of NFL news we got to get to, including a couple signings. We officially get a number for Aaron Rodgers, both as jersey and in his contract. But let's start with the drop that happened this morning as the Packers have decided to release cornerback Jair Alexander after 7 seasons, easily their best corner. This is a shock to me. I thought at least you would get a trade for him. What are your thoughts, Spark?
I mean, I thought he'd be traded. I almost thought that Ramsey would be involved with that and we would get him in
Mhm.
Miami. But the more I read into it, I mean, it's kind of the same issue that Miami's dealing with is the contract. I mean, he's due $17.5 million this season with 2 years left on his deal. But, the Packers grew frustrated with his availability. I mean, he has missed so much time. He's only appeared in 34 of 68 possible games since 2021. And I mean, he's not only just dealing with a knee injury, but a shoulder injury, a PCL injury. I mean, this guy's got a long list of injuries. And I mean, despite being an all-pro in 2020 and 2022, he's missed a ton of time. I would expect him to get picked up quick, but luckily as him, he's a free agent, so he can kind of pick where he wants to play. We did get a text over the break saying that Alexander is going to Las Vegas. Count it in now. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams I would expect to at least pick up a flyer and throw him in camp, but
maybe that's why they released him, though, because you have to take into account 2 straight seasons of injury-riddled football. As you said, I mean, he's dealing with those injuries still now, which is why they didn't want to pay him the money. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe everybody either saw that in the water and knew no one would really make a trade, so they all stalled out until he became a free agent, and now it's a free game kind of situation. Or maybe maybe he doesn't have a trade value. Maybe he doesn't have a trade market. Maybe everybody believes that he might be a little too injury prone for that kind of a contract, so they wanted to see what they could get for pennies on the dollar. So,
well, we'll definitely keep you posted because I would expect somebody to pick him up. It might be a long wait. Maybe they wait until somebody drops him, but I can see the Raiders. I could at least see the Dolphins. I know for the last couple of weeks, it's been a rumor that Miami was talking to Green Bay about him. So I don't know if they just didn't want to pay the high price or they didn't want to cover that salary. And now that will be free, I mean, clear a space. I mean, it depends on how much. I know there's a small fine print rule of if he gets picked up in a certain amount of time, there's certain contract things that he has. Exactly. Yeah. But speaking of contract issues and disputes, the Bills running back James Cook, which has been making waves that he's skipped OTAs, he's considering missing mandatory minicamp, but over the weekend, not only did he not show up at OTAs, but he put his house on the market. Like he just wants out of Buffalo. He was a guest on what was the name of that podcast? He was just saying that he feels disconnected and that the Bills GM Brandon Beane both of them are far apart from the deal that he wants. He has mentioned over and over that he wants $15 million per season, which is a going rate for running backs these days. And yes, that's what his actual quote says: "Feed me the big bucks that I deserve." And not only we've talked about this off the air, but it's not a big red flag when players that are going through contract disputes that they unfollow their team on their social medias. That's usually the first step.
Yeah, but selling your house,
putting your house up on the market. I mean, he sounds like he's done in Buffalo.
Well, and okay, look, I get he wants to be paid. I totally understand that. But you've heard from the ownership essentially that they don't necessarily believe your skill level is based on you alone. They do believe that Josh Allen's play has a lot to do with how good you've been. And I'm going to read you his stats from the last 2 years, Sparky, and you tell me if this is worth the money. I mean, 2023, he played in 17 games, had 237 carries for 1,122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Last year, 207 carries, 1,009 yards, 16 touchdowns. You barely scratched the surface of 1,000 yards. So I don't know. Like, I get that you are a solid running back, but I believe that the Buffalo Bills believe they can get that kind of production, if not better, from somebody else. And honestly, I don't blame them. Not to say that James Cook isn't a good running back, but these numbers don't scream pay me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these numbers don't scream, I want my money now.
Well, they got bigger issues to deal with.
Exactly.
With the money that they have left.
And they need to figure out a defensive situation because you still have a lot of pieces you lost on that side of the ball as well. You still haven't figured out your number one receiver. I mean, if I'm Buffalo, I get that a lot of guys want to be paid, but I kind of agree with him that maybe James Cook isn't the guy you want to pay. But I mean, I don't know. I know Houston is out here grabbing another running back, which that was the biggest shock to me over the weekend, is that we got note of
Nick Chubb
going to the Texans on a 1-year deal when they already had Joe Mixon, Damon Pierce. They picked up a running back in the draft with Woody Marks at USC.
A couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, what are they building over there in Houston? Because one of these guys must be on the way out. I don't think it's Joe Mixon.
Well, when I was reading into it, along with Nick Chubb, he's still pinning a physical, which shouldn't be an issue, but coming off a major injury.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's 29 and coming off back-to-back injury-plagued seasons. What I've read, I mean, he has not only will he be running back 2, which might be a plus for him.
It would.
I mean, especially teaming up with Mixon, that is going to be a scary backfield.
It is.
But what I read is the Texans' current backup right now is Dameon Pierce.
Yes.
And he struggled last year, only having 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they might be on his way out.
That's why I bring this up, is maybe Buffalo makes a trade for Pierce for something small, or maybe they just ship James Cook over there, and you can try to build around that guy. Because he's had flashes of being at least as competent as James Cook. Because if the bar for you is 1,000 yards as a running back in today's game, I'm sorry, that ain't enough.
Yeah,
it is not enough. A 4.9 run or average per run is nice, and yes, 16 touchdowns last year is very nice. But I would sit there and say that a lot of those had to do with the defense focusing on Josh Allen and trying to slow him down as well. Because let's not forget that he was the MVP. It's just...
the only other running backs they have in Buffalo right now is Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Darrington Evans, and Frank Gore Jr.
Which they've been running on absolute pins and needles for the last couple years anyway. So I don't think they care who's at running back.
Yeah, and I don't see Buffalo paying the man $15 million.
I don't think so either.
But going back to Chubb, I mean, that on paper, it looks like an awesome pickup, especially this late in the offseason. But, if Nick Chubb is a running back 2, which, like a dumbass, I picked him up late in my fantasy draft last year. I was like, cool, he's going to be a secret weapon towards, playoff time. And, he didn't come until way late, and the Browns are already out. But speaking of running backs and stats, just a funny story I saw over the weekend was Derrick Henry was on, was it Dan Patrick, and saying he was a huge Adam Sandler fan and that he was kind of upset that he's never been asked to be in any of Sandler's movies. So the whole story, that's how it started. Well, Dan Patrick said, well, we can make something. We can make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the deal is if Henry runs for 2,000 rushing yards this year, not only will he make NFL history, but he'll earn a cameo in an Adam Sandler movie.
Oh my God.
So they made a whole deal out of it.
Hear me out. I know where you're going with this, but let me say it first. Are we getting possibility of a Waterboy 2? Because hear me out. We're already getting Happy Gilmore 2.
Yes.
And he's clearly thrown that entire I don't do sequels shtick out the door. So we may get a Billy Madison 2. Why not give us Waterboy 2? Waterboy 2 with Henry would be amazing. Let's be honest. Oh my God. Where he comes back as the coach and Derrick Henry is the running back now.
Yeah, they showed a video with Henry at Ravens practice, and a video message popped up on the Titantron and said it was a video message from Adam Sandler saying 2,000 yards plus this year. Not only get you in a movie with me, but we'll have a nice dinner and talk about Dan Patrick's facial hair. So we're having fun with it. I mean, I'm a Derrick Henry fan, so anything that
I die to see that movie now that I'm thinking about it. Like, oh my Lord, watching Derrick Henry be like a second Happy Gilmore would be amazing. Imagine him just running with rage issues. It would be amazing. Come on. That'd be absolute cinema gold. I love that story. And then real quick before we take a break, obviously we teased it earlier, but yes, the contract is finally within signed. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers have begun finishing this up. He'll get about $13 million on this deal and will be wearing number 8. He will not be going back to his number 12.
And with that contract, it surpassed. He is the highest paid NFL player of all time.
Oh my Lord. You see, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, everybody wants to sit here and say this man is just teething for attention and all of this stuff. Really? Like,
He's stacking that money.
who cares? Like, he is making ridiculous amounts of money playing football. I don't think he gives a dang.
No.
I don't think he's asking for any attention. I think
No.
you guys are just giving it to him.
Yeah. And Schefter over the weekend, I think it was Unsportsmanlike, I was listening to, and he said, you know, it's funny that everyone is bashing on the Steelers like that was their number one choice.
Yeah,
He said, you
this is
know,
their backups,
Rodgers
backups
was plan C. He said, you know, originally they had went hard after Justin Fields.
They wanted to keep him.
And he didn't want to. He went to the Jets, which still scratches my head.
Well, okay. Going to the Jets scratches my head, but I get not wanting to stay because you showed me you don't have faith in me when you put Russell Wilson in
Benched
over me, and I was doing good. Granted, the stats weren't amazing for him, but you guys were winning football games.
And
then
they also tried to trade for Matt Stafford,
exactly,
which obviously didn't work out.
And yeah, well, so did the Giants. But anybody who actually believed the Rams
That he was
were
gonna leave.
thinking about moving Matt Stafford, I'm sorry, you drank the Kool-Aid a little too early.
Well, we'll get into the other players that were arrested over the weekend, and much more on the early bird special. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Now this one I know.
Older one.
Yeah, no, really. That's something about it. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. And unfortunately, before we get out of football, there's one or two stories that we still have to talk about. I don't know. Some people may be surprised by this. Some people probably aren't going to be. But Adam Pac-Man Jones has been arrested again in the greater Cincinnati area on Saturday for intoxication in a public place, disorderly conduct, and the assault of a police officer or probation officer. He was arrested on Saturday and posted a $10,000 bail, was released around 11 a.m. This isn't the first time this has happened. This is why I'm like, you can be surprised by it, but it's really no surprise to anybody who's followed this guy's career.
Straight arrests since 2021.
Yeah, but I'm more saying like this is the second time he's done this exact act. Like this man's I as great of a football player as he was for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Raiders and all that. Golly, brother, like
I forgot about the Raiders.
He is great on television too. That's what makes me laugh. When he's on McAfee, he's fantastic. But it's just like, dude, can somebody help him not drink anymore, please? Like maybe that's the issue. I don't know. I feel for the man, but it's just like, brother, again, an assault of an officer too is what's going to get you, dude. You're going to get time eventually for this. They're not going to sit there and just say, you can keep paying bond and we'll let you go. Like this is really sad to see, but again, he's out right now and facing the charges. He's in Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, or last time this happened, he was in Kentucky, if I read that correctly.
Well, I think last year was the air flight one, right?
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. That's the one that was in Kentucky. That's
he was removed from a flight for public intoxication.
Brother, I
put the bottle down, my brother.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that's the biggest issue you got to help him find is you got to just stop him from getting drunk, because that seems to me to be the underlining factor through all of these is that he's drunk. He's drunk and probably acting a fool with friends. Someone's asking him not act a fool, and he acts out, or somebody in his group acts out, and he gets tied into it, and all of that type of stuff. So it's like, dude, stay away from the booze. I think that's the end of it.
We've seen plenty of 30 for 30s where, just hanging around with the wrong people.
Exactly. I mean, there was the instance after the Mike Tyson Logan Paul fight too, where I think he assaulted an officer again while he was drunk. I'm like, dude, this guy really just needs to stop drinking.
Well, I played the wrong NWA song then. But former Cowboys cornerback Kelvin Joseph was also arrested. This one is a bit scarier. This one had a connection with a fatal motorcycle crash early Saturday morning. And according to police reports, the incident happened just before 5 a.m. in Richardson, Texas, when a 27-year-old motorcyclist, Cody Morris, was killed in a collision. And when the police arrived, there were nobody there at the scene. And just about 20 minutes after they arrived, Joseph called the police department to report his involvement in the crash. Officers later determined that Joseph had collided with the motorcycle, and when police say when they spoke to him, that they could clearly tell that he was faded, and he was later then arrested, and now he's facing not only the DWI and collision involving personal injury or death, a serious felony. I mean, he was a second-round pick by the Cowboys, but looks like he's going to be spending some time. That's not a $10,000 bail type charge.
No, and from what I understand, he's been playing in the UFL too, because he plays for the Defenders, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he's going to need a public defender real soon, because that is just sad, and it goes back to just drinking booze and acting a fool. But I was going to bring this up before we get away from the NFL. But not only like Lamar Jackson, he did the same thing last year where he skips the workouts and he skips the OTAs with Baltimore. And last year it was a holdout where he said he wasn't going to show up, and ended up losing $750K. And now he's doing the same thing, which isn't contract reason. He just says he works out at his own facility, and that it's nothing against Baltimore, but I mean, we're looking at I know it's only $1.5 million with the guy that is set to make $42 million just in this season. But the small thing is working out away from the facility,
Yeah.
and he gets hurt.
Yeah.
He's got, no backing with the team. The team
No.
can't. They don't have to pay him if he gets hurt.
No, contractually, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they put into NFL contracts specifically for this. That's why if you ever hear an NFL player say, "Oh, I can't, get on a jet ski or do anything crazy like that, go skydiving," that's because in their contract specifically it says you are not allowed to put yourself or your body in any serious danger like that. So, like stuff like that is not available to you. And that's where I kind of I understand why the team would have a problem with this, because although true, it's OTA still and they're not mandatory, and everybody, like, some people work out better by themselves rather than being around a lot of people. But in a team sport like football, I feel like the best for you and for your team is for you guys to be together more. You know what I mean? Like as much as you possibly can, on top of being able to keep tabs on everybody. So I kind of agree with the team in this one. I feel like you should just come work out at the facility, brother, because if you do end up hurting yourself, at least at that point you could sit there and say, well, it's on us because he was working out here, because you're still at work. It's just like a workman's comp claim. Like you would just, get some sort of benefits on that end. But I kind of get their gripe against him on this one.
And one of my favorite players who retired, Taron Armstead, retired this offseason from Miami. And I caught him on the Nightcap show, and he was talking about that it wasn't really feasible for him to play football this year. And he goes in deep into the knee injury that he got in 2015 and really breaks down that he hasn't been 100% in over a decade.
No.
And that his quote says, "I couldn't walk until Wednesday or Thursdays after games. I was only able to play under pain meds." And he said, I just can't keep doing this to myself. And that's when he had to step away. He said, "I would love to play football for anybody really for the next 5 years." But he said 10 years of popping painkillers. And, he said he couldn't even get out of bed.
That's the
after
injury he
games.
sustained in the middle of his Saints run,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think I remember actually seeing that. Again, it's much like the Detroit Lions lineman who had to walk away as well, Ragnow, because these guys, if there's anybody on the football field, I feel that gets banged up the most outside of maybe a running back, it's a lineman. I know we all like to say the quarterback is getting banged up too much, or they're
Look what these
taking
big
hard
boys are
hits.
doing.
It's like, yeah, no, these big boys are taking the brunt of the punishment, trust me. And they get no support and no love for it. In fact, the only time you ever know a lineman's name is traditionally when they suck. And that's never a good thing.
That's fact.
And it's just when it comes to guys like Armstead and Ragnar, like it's hard to replace guys like that. That's why I genuinely believe now the Lions might take a step back this year, because that is a pivotal piece on the offensive line to lose as your center. And much like you guys in Miami losing Armstead on the left tackle situation, that's also a pivotal one, even though that's actually it's not the blind side for Tua. So it may not be that detrimental. But did you guys have him at right tackle, or did you have him at
We
left?
had him at left.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no.
And it looks like Patrick Paul, which was a high draft pick for us the year before, got a year under with Armstead, and he filled in several times when Armstead couldn't go. So what I've seen in camp, that Patrick Paul is stepping up. That guy is a monster, and he's the one that has the Punisher helmet, that the face mask. But before we get into snacks in the NBA, this would be a perfect segue. We got 2 texts regarding the NBA.
Okay.
The first one says, "NBA Finals last night was horrible." And Buddy want one team winning by 20, and especially in the NBA Finals, which, I mean, what did you expect?
I agree with you. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, we were telling you last week, expect a blowout on Sunday night, because I mean that's just how the Thunder roll. They lose a game, they come back the next game, and they blow them out by double digits. That's why Vegas had it at 10.5. I mean, but I do agree with you. No one wants to watch 2 small market teams win a blowout game in the finals. That wasn't fun to watch in any way, shape, or form. So I can't say they're wrong.
Well, I couldn't get off the couch, so I was stuck there.
I know, but again, that's kind of what bugged me is I'm sitting there watching the game, doing my notes, and I'm sitting there thinking, God, I just want to turn this off, and it's like 10 minutes left. But like you, I'm sitting there thinking, no, the Pacers have done this before. They've been down 15 with 10 minutes left and somehow win the dang basketball game. So I can't just turn it off.
And you could tell even the listener or the broadcast team was like, we never know.
Richard Jefferson does an amazing job with Doris too, and I just their ability to just keep the entertainment part of that game going, even though that game got worse and worse and worse with every period. It just oh man,
I will say I like that team better than what we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals.
you just don't like hearing Reggie.
I just don't like Reggie. But the other one says, who do you guys think the Knicks will hire as their new coach? It looks like no one wants the job. They should have kept Tibbs, which
no, I'm not gonna lie. I don't believe that no one wants the job. I think there are plenty of people that want the job. I just think they haven't started looking yet.
and I know the news came out over the weekend that they've tried to request a meeting with Jason Kidd, which a lot of people think they'll get declined.
Yeah, but I was just about to bring that up that I could see Jason there. I genuinely could. I think Jason Kidd's a great choice. And I think Mike Malone is probably the other one you would look into, especially if you're looking to build a championship right now. Then you might want to go with the coach that has won a championship in the last 5 years. So
Probably be the smart move.
right. So I would assume that Mike Malone is most likely the number one on their board if he wants to coach next year. I also think the young coach out of Memphis would be a good one. Jenkins, the one they just fired this year, but that would be more of a lateral move with the Tibbs departure, in my opinion, because they're very similar and really had the same problems before he was fired. So
well, we can see what Snacks' his opinion on that, especially on top of the referee in the NBA Finals. Has it switched since the conference finals? Plus, recapping the first two games of the finals as well as previewing Game 3. Right after this break, we'll have the sister station Hits 93.1 right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. It's a little earlier.
No, I brought it up because during the OKC games, I hear it in the background
Oh, they do
all
play
the
this.
time. I'm like, what is the connection? Is it just
No, they just everyone plays John Cena, man. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. That's why at the show I was bowing. Heck yeah, I don't care. That's
the
John
last
Cena. That's my
real
GOAT.
champion?
Hogan be damned, as somebody would say across the hall. Real quick though, we're gonna talk NBA basketball before we get into WWE. We will get into that in our final segment because we were at SmackDown last Friday. But our guy Snacks is on the line. We got to talk NBA Finals and what we saw yesterday during Game 2. And I know he is in Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken. Sir, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, can't complain, man. What are you up to? Where are you out? Why are you out of the state?
Well, this is the week. This is the week for the NBA thing.
Oh,
We've
true.
been discussing. So I'm here for a whole week in Charlotte for the NBA Top 100, but they also attached that with the officiating camp as well. So.
Fantastic. Well, how's it going? How are things looking? I know you just started, obviously. You just got there, but.
Yeah, today is the first day everything gets started. So we'll do the training parts the first 2 days, then our interviews. And then the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we'll be on the floor doing games. So.
Well, bouncing back off of officiating, I mean, what is your view of the officiating this year in the finals compared to the conference finals in the last series?
I think each year, and I think this is just a method that the NBA has. I don't know this for sure. I think they let them play more and more the game goes on. So I don't think it's been bad. I think other years I was like, okay, this could have had a couple more whistles here or whatnot. But this year, I really don't think it's been that bad, in my honest opinion.
See, I kind of feel bad asking him a question about the refereeing right now while he's at a referee clinic. I was like, is this bad?
That's the best person to ask.
I know, really. But I don't know. Like when I'm watching Game 2, though, I'm feeling like they went back to more of like a regular season style of refereeing. Like they were calling, I wouldn't say everything, but there were a lot of ticky-tack calls that I was like, really? We're going to play that? But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I was telling my wife, man, if we took a shot every time a player threw up his hands asking for a foul, we wouldn't make it out of the first quarter.
No, we really wouldn't.
But, I mean, that's got to be one of the toughest jobs, especially in the NBA Finals. But, I mean, I give it to you. I didn't see a lot of ticky-tack calls, but, I mean, this game 2, was kind of what we thought we were going to see in Game 1. So, overall in the series, I mean, we talked on Friday that we expected OKC to come out swinging. And, I mean, they were up big in Game 1. But like we had said, they kind of got lazy, autopilot mid-third quarter and kind of let the Pacers back in, which last night they didn't. I mean, they kept it on the pedal. I mean, I think they got it down to 11 or 12 later in the game. But after that, I mean, I don't know what you saw, Snacks, but what do you think a Game 2, how that is going to form into Game 3? Or are we expecting Pacers to come out and do kind of what OKC did last night?
What I saw from OKC is what I expected from the beginning. I mean, I guess we can say they're consistent. They just let off the gas in Game 1. What we saw yesterday is what we expected to see. I mean, what should have happened in Game 1. I do think Rick Carlisle is a coach that can change things around. I don't see this being a sweep. I do see the Pacers getting a game or 2 at home. I also can see them tying it up the way that's just how they play. I will say the Pacers are a team you just can't come out and just take as a fluke, as we saw in Game 1, because they will come out and because they're going to knock down threes. They're not going to give up. And so I take OKC winning this whole series, but I don't see. I guess the point I'm making, I don't see the Pacers fouling out easy. Going back home. A good old Indiana. Indianapolis of it.
So you're not feeling like this is going to go the route of the Lakers and Sixers series where they win the first game and then just bow out the other 4?
Yeah, no. This is going to be a series. I do think Pacers will make it a series just because I really do think. I mean, this is both teams first time going to the finals, so they really, really want it. I honestly, in my heart, think it's going to be a good series to watch. I just think OKC is gonna pull it out in the end. They have too many weapons. They're so deep. They're so deep. They come off the bench and they still got energy, and not just come off the bench, but they come off the bench with scores. They come off the bench with defense. They come off the bench with energy. Like it's like, God, just give me a break.
So we didn't get to talk to you on Friday, so I didn't get to ask you this question, but it's a two-parter now since we'll go into the second part here. Do you think Tyrese Halliburton is a superstar? And if so, do you think that he needs to have this whole takeover mentality that everybody keeps talking about?
That superstar tag is interesting, guys, because what really makes you a superstar? Because we got guys in the league that were superstars. I mean, I know they joke with Charles Barkley all the time. He was he was one of the superstars in the league, but he never won a championship.
Well,
I guess the thing is what makes a player in any sport a superstar.
Here's a weird way to look at it then. Since we all know that a superstar on a team technically gets calls from referees, if that's not a weird way to say it, would you give Tyrese Halliburton calls if you were reffing an NBA game? Like, would you give him favorable calls?
Oh, in that sense, no, I'm not treating him like a LeBron.
Okay. So yeah, okay. So then he would not be a superstar in my opinion. Because if you were a superstar, you're getting those calls, right? I mean, that's more the long and short of it.
Especially in the NBA, you protect the superstar. It's kind of like when we have our pregame, hey, protect the shooters, protect the good players, let's keep the good players in the game. In the NBA, let's keep the moneymakers in the game. In this sense, you want to keep them in the game, but I don't think he's at the point where, let's treat him like LeBron or treat him like a Luka or something like that. I don't think he's there yet, but he's on his way for sure. We can't take that from him.
If that is the case, then back to the second part of my question, do you think that he needs to play with this take over the game mentality like a lot of the media is pushing for? Or do you believe like that they should really just stick to what got them to the finals and won them the games in the first place, which is cohesive teamwork basketball?
I think if we talk in NBA, we're looking for somebody to take over the game. And we're coming from, we all grew up on the Kobe's and the Mikes, and when it was time to take over, they took over. We knew who had the ball. We knew they was going to score some way, somehow. So I think that's where the media is coming from. That when it comes to professional sports, we're looking for somebody to take over the game. Like, who's going to handle the game? And have we really seen that from him yet? Now he's had some clutch moments, which is why the talks of him becoming a superstar is coming up. But I don't think for me personally, I don't think he's there yet.
I think that's one of the things that OKC has done well when they've played the Pacers. Like you had mentioned, Burdick is Dort is all over him. He blankets him and makes it difficult. And with the Pacers, not if he's a superstar or not, but when Halliburton is hot, the team seems to play off of that. And we haven't really seen that. I mean, not from game 2, but I mean, the players like Pascal and other ones that, usually play better when Halliburton is playing well. I mean, I think he was going into the fourth quarter with 5 or 6 points. And I mean, I was texting my buddy that's a big Pacer fan and was like, where's your boy? Where's your boy? Where's he? I mean, where's he at? And I was almost nervous to hit send because I was telling him, I'm like, as soon as I do, he's going to put up 20 in the fourth quarter, which, I mean, he started to shoot in the fourth quarter, but it seemed it was a bit too late.
Yeah, and again, he's one of those players you just can't let just go out there and do it. But I think what you all are saying, why does it take him so long? Why does he not take over the game in the beginning? And sometimes as a player, as a good player, you have to kind of feel the game out because the game plan is about you. I think that's why it's so hard for Anthony Edwards because he can come out and score at will. But he has to kind of feel the whole game out because most of the game plan is around how do we stop him from scoring? We stop him from scoring. We stop him from getting to his spots, particularly at the free throw line extended. How do we stop that? And so those players are waiting to see what it's going to give them before they lock in. And I think sometimes Halliburton just waits too long. It doesn't take that long to see what the defense is doing on you.
One last question for you. We had a couple listeners asking on who do we think is going to be the new head coach. There's been some rumblings that they had requested to to interview Jason Kidd, and some other names are starting to pop up. I know Malone has been the main one. Is there anybody that just catches your eye with that vacant job?
I would like to see Rajon Rondo.
Ooh, I
that's a
haven't
name
heard
that
that
hasn't
one.
come up.
That would be
Yeah,
insane.
I would like to see Rajon Rondo. I don't think even when he played, I think people underestimated his basketball IQ. And if you listen to a lot of players talk about Rondo, he's pretty much has the same IQ as a Steve Nash, or a JJ Redick.
Mm-hmm.
And his name actually have been coming up. Honestly, since we already hiring people that's never had a career in coaching in NBA anyway, might as well give them a chance. I mean, that's a tough market to start in, but I think Rajon Rondo can take it. If he's played in tough, you played in Boston, you played at Kentucky, in markets like that. So I don't think that'll be hard for him. And with his basketball IQ, I don't know why I would want to hire Jason Kidd anyway. He's doing well over the Mavericks. If I'm Jason Kidd, I wouldn't want to leave. He actually had a good year. They were just injury prone. He didn't have any players.
Well, he didn't have any players because his GM traded him away. So that's a completely different situation.
Well, that's probably why that makes sense. He's probably why he's trying to get out that situation.
No,
I would like to see Rajon Rondo.
Rondo would be a good addition with
one.
I think he would help
that.
Brunson as well.
Yeah.
At least with game plan and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Before we let you go, though, quick prediction. Who do you got? Or I know you said OKC, but how many games?
Okay, and C in 5.
In 5? Okay. So there we go.
That's who I took.
Well, at this point, I'm still riding with the Pacers. I have a little bit of hope that the Halliburton situation can clean itself up and they can at least take 1 or 2 of these games in Indiana. But my friend, thank you for your time. As always, we'll let you get back to what you were doing, and we'll talk to you when you get back.
All right, brother. You all be good.
Thanks, man. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills one final time. On the other side, we'll talk wrestling. We were at SmackDown on Friday. Plus, we had Money in the Bank over the weekend with Worlds Collide and much more. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all over the place at the Early Bird Special. It's on the slower side.
Just like me and JR.
Bad for you two right now. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I came in this morning about 6:20, as I usually do. Rolled in to see our program director, J.R. Flores, who produces the morning show on Kern Radio, and our boy Sparky here, both hobbling in different ways. And I said,
Hippie times.
I should have walked in with a kinked neck, just to, completed the trio at this point. But it was a rough weekend for the boys. Apparently, I apologize. I'm sorry,
That's what
man.
happens
That
when you get old.
Well,
I
I'm
was
not
just
far
telling
behind
him-
you.
I was just telling him, I don't even know what I did. I just woke up Sunday and 5:30 rolled out of bed and I couldn't put any weight on my leg. So it's not my foot, it's my my shin. So I have no idea.
Oh,
But we had an exciting weekend, starting with SmackDown right here in our backyard, which I was surprised. Not only was it a hell of a show,
mhm.
and we came out big, and I was nervous that we were gonna start chanting some stupid crap.
Well, first and foremost, kudos to Bakersfield for dang near selling the place out. And kudos to the wrestling fans, because I know they're not all from Bakersfield. A lot of people came from around the other communities, Fresno and stuff like that as well. And people follow this stuff knowing that it was going to LA the next day. But it was, like Sparky said, packed out show. It was really fun to watch.
got a Bakersfield brawl.
Yeah, that was kind of entertaining. Although I still don't know what the difference was between a regular Bakersfield brawl and
just any way they could market,
which is great. I'm sure that, and honestly, hearing Paul Heyman and John Cena both talk just smack about Bakersfield was fantastic. I loved hearing that. And it was the last time we will ever see John Cena in the wrestling ring in Bakersfield. So that was emotional for some of us.
Oh yeah. He got a big, I mean, everybody was there. So it was a cool show.
And he got the thank you Cena chance at the end where he stopped at the exit and stuff and kind of acknowledged it.
Did you watch it on TV afterwards?
I did. I wanted to see the differences and
the
stuff.
Computer or the camera magic that they do.
It's fantastic.
It is. And I mean,
and it makes
as a
us
smaller
look
venue,
huge.
We looked so much bigger than it actually was.
Wow.
And I'm like, that is
very cool.
Some beautiful
and
magic.
and that's what I'm happy to see though, because that means they're coming back and they will continue to come back as they usually do, because they know that there is a market here and that's how you keep them coming back. So that was a great showing for us and a great show in general for them to go into Money in the Bank. And also Worlds Collide, which was right before it on YouTube. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you go do so, especially if you're a fan of actual Mexican style lucha libre. It is 100% that. It's AAA, which is the new acquisition from the WWE, taking on a lot of WWE guys, and it had some of the most exciting matches of the weekend.
So is that where the Dirty Dom match?
That is where
scheduled?
It was set up. That actually was shocking to me. I'm just sitting there watching it while doing our videos and clips and stuff, which go onto the social media and stuff like that and see those. You'll see some Tiffy clips and other interviews and stuff that we have done, but it just kind of sporadically happened at the end of that first match, and it just grew into it. Dom grabbed the microphone and said, "I'm challenging you at Money in the Bank tonight." And I said, wow, okay, that was out of nowhere, but I guess we're getting an Intercontinental match tonight too, which was okay. That wasn't the best part though, because before we get out of here, I have to establish two things, Sparky. First and foremost, I want to make an apology. I will make an apology to Ron Killens. Good sir, you are a beloved man in the world of wrestling. And for me to go out and essentially try to downplay the cries for you, I apologize. I genuinely do, especially knowing that this was not a work, no matter how much Triple H tried to make it sound like it was during the press conference. No.
You're enjoying this?
Ron and his son came out and said, this was not a work. We were not under contract. Every wrestler was crying about it because it was legit. They was not part of the company. But they just worked their magic, much like they did with CM Punk right before the PLE, got him to sign the contract and said, all right, you're working tonight then, and got probably the biggest reaction I've seen out of a mid-carder in quite some time. Because let's be honest, as much as the R-Truth chants are beloved, he ain't winning a World Heavyweight Championship, not off John Cena. But he will. But him getting his contract signing and getting his money is a great thing, and I apologize to R-Truth for downplaying that. However, every single wrestling fan listening to my voice right now, including the ones that are on the internet, and I hope I'm going to make a clip out of this so we can actually put it on the internet. You need to apologize You need to do what I'm doing right now, and you need to apologize to Paul Levesque right now. Because all I have heard in the last couple of months is nothing but slander about this man and how he's been booking and how he's losing control and how he's this and that. He doesn't give us what we want. And TKO is taking over and doing this and that and the other. Y'all need to apologize right now before you start turning your back on this and saying, oh my God, this was the best year of wrestling we've seen out of the WWE in forever. Shush. Not until you apologize for every bit of slander you gave this man are you allowed to say anything good about this company, because this man is getting a lot of flack for stuff that it should not be. And to be honest with you, he is making some great content for television.
He is.
He really is.
I was super happy to see Seth and his wife win their matches at Money in the Bank. But I got to read this text because it's for Raw. He says, quote me, Goldberg is back tonight to interfere with Gunther and Usos match to start the Gunther Goldberg SummerSlam
I'd
match.
love to see that, but I also hear that he may be dealing with an injury his dang self. So that match may be pushed back to further back than SummerSlam. But hey, maybe we get it at Mania instead. That could entirely be the case. I unfortunately kind of believe you, though, or kind of agree with you. I think Jay may lose the belt tonight. A lot of storyline things have made me feel that way. I'll give you more about my thoughts on that tomorrow with our guy KG. This has been the Early Bird Special, though. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., and on our YouTube and Twitch channels at the Early Bird Special. But until then, we got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky.